How are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having time for us.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, why don't you introduce yourself to my Cool Careers audience?
Well, my name is Donovan Lewis. I work at SportsRadio 96.7 and 1310 The Ticket. It's a radio station based out here in Dallas. I've been there for 14 years now, since 2006. But I have been in the radio game and the business since I graduated college in 1993. So in July, it is year number 27 for me in this crazy radio game. So we are just chugging along, having a good time, and trying to make a difference around here.
Wow, 27 years. Wow, that's a long time.
It is.
You're aging yourself.
I started when I was 8. I was really early on in the game, and everything was great.
Well, Donovan, I usually start off with connections. I mean, we've probably been knowing each other about a little over 25 years. This is really crazy. We had good friends. My crew used to hang out with your crew. We thought we were so cool, like hanging out with postgraduate college guys. You guys were so such gentlemen and so cool. So shout out to Douglas Chandler. Hey, Doug.
My man, yeah.
Great house parties and stuff. And so we had a great time. And so here we are. And you're in my space, which is a new thing, right? So
how about that?
You come to your space.
I'm nervous. I'm shaking in my boots. I'm in your space now.
Yeah, that's right. So I appreciate you being a good sport and really have time. And I know you are very, very busy. So thanks for having time for my audience.
It is my pleasure. Anything for you.
So why don't we talk about how connections and relationships have been important for you in your career?
Well, it's funny you mention that because I don't think I would have gotten started without a connection, because I do feel, and I say this all the time when I talk to a lot of younger people aspiring to get into the business, I think overall they can teach you what you need to know. And it's about who you know that can get your foot in the door so you can showcase all your talents. So right when I graduated college in 93, my uncle, for a graduation present, set up for me a lunch with a guy named Bob Ray Sanders. He was a journalist for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, but more importantly for me, he had an evening talk show on 570 KLIF. I had never heard of him. I had never heard of the radio station before. But he set up a lunch for us. And when we had the lunch, it was probably about an hour and a half of me just whipping his hind end, asking him questions about everything. And then about a week later, he gave me a call and said, hey, I think they have a job opening up here at the station. Why don't you come apply for it? And I did, and I got the job. So that's what started me on my way. So it was that connection that I made from my uncle as a graduation present with Bob Ray Sanders that kind of shot the radio career, put it on the tracks.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
So, go Uncle. Does he get residual checks like every year?
Oh, trust me. He lets me know about that every single time I see him. You know, you wouldn't be in this game if it weren't for me. So like, okay, I understand. I got it. But yeah, I was very appreciative of that, because I think it probably would have been a little tough to get your foot into this business, especially a big market like Dallas, because people, they work to get here. This is the top 5 market in the United States. And all while we were in school, they were telling us, you're going to have to go to some place to work some crazy hours just to try to even get an opportunity to come work in Dallas. And although it was at the very bottom of the totem pole, I got my start here in Dallas in a major market, and I've never had to move. I've been here the whole entire time. So it is a blessing to have that happen, because you talk to a lot of people in this business. They've been to Shreveport. They've been to Topeka, Kansas. They've been to North Dakota. They've been all over the place dreaming about getting into a major market. And born and raised here in Dallas, and I've never had to move. So that is a check mark on my list that I'm very appreciative of.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a really big deal.
It is. This major market syndrome. You get a lot of people around here that come here and don't ever leave. So you don't have a lot of job openings because this is the dream job. It's New York, it's Philadelphia, it's LA, it's Chicago, and it's Dallas. And so to get an opportunity to work in radio here in Dallas was is really cool.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, listen, has that always been the plan? Like you went to you went to college to major in communications, and was that always the route you were going to take? Radio is what you wanted to do?
It was not. When I first got to college, I always thought, and it was in my head the entire time, that if you are good in math, you have to be some sort of engineer. So that's what I was going to do. I was really good at math. It's some sort of engineering. So that was my major when I first got to college, was engineering. And my first semester of my freshman year, I took this intro to engineering class, and it was the hardest class I'd ever taken in my life. And I was like, if this is intro, if I have to get into some advanced, I'm not going to make it.
Right,
so I spoke to a counselor on campus. And I guess I must have talked her ear off, because she said, how about communications, radio, television? Have you ever thought about that? And I was like, oh, you've always listened. I've always enjoyed listening to the radio and the different personalities on the radio, but I never thought that I'd make it a career. And she said, if you don't like it, you can use the class as an elective. And if you do, then maybe that can be your career choice. And I was like, okay, done. So I took a radio, TV announcing class and 100% fell in love with it. So I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. But when I was first in college, sports talk radio wasn't really a big thing. It wasn't a thing where you could make a career out of. So it was almost kind of focused on the television side. Right. It wasn't until my last year of college where I fell in love with radio and thought, okay, I want to be on the radio in some form or fashion. So that's where it started. Basically, my last year of college, I fell in love with radio and said, this is what I want to do. So it was full steam ahead of trying to get into the radio game. Did
you guys have a radio station on campus?
We did, yes. It was 88.9 KETR.
Did you work? Were you on air there?
No, but I was on the air at it was a cable television channel, but it had a radio station underneath that the students did the programming for. So it was basically the startup, because it was just on television, and that was KKOM, and I was on that, and I was I was awful.
You were behind the scenes.
Oh no, I had a couple of air shifts, and it was so bad that I thought I was going to have to change my major. That's how bad it was. I was terrible.
That's funny. What was bad? What made you bad? What was so horrible or terrible about it?
Even to this day, I do not like to hear myself on the radio. Yeah. So if I'm in my car and I'm listening to my station and I hear a commercial that I voiced, my first thing I will say is, oh, nobody wants to hear that, and I'll turn it down. So I can't stand to hear my voice. So I would always take myself on the radio station, come home and watch it, and then I'd hear myself and I go, oh my gosh, who is that? And immediately didn't want to listen to it. So that was the bad thing about it. Just listening to yourself talk, it's like, oh, what is that? So that's what I hated about it at first. But it probably still was terrible.
No, I could see that. And even with like actors, you see them in interviews, they don't watch their own movies and stuff like that. Right, I kind of feel like it's that same sort of thing.
And it's my freshman year and I was raw and I didn't know anything about radio. I'm just on there playing music and trying to intro it and stumbling over my words and nervous. I mean, it's probably the most nervous I've ever been was the first shift I had on that cable television station. So just, you have to work your way around all that.
And where'd you go to school?
I went to East Texas State University in Commerce. Now it's Texas A&M Commerce. But
you really, everything about this is dating you. Like, school is gone.
I know. I'm just dating myself. But yes.
Right. It's morphed into a whole university since you left. Like, that's not even your school anymore.
It's just something so totally different. You're so old and so totally different now from when you were there. Yeah. Graduated there.
That's their old name. The new name.
All right. Spring of '93 is when I graduated from East.
I love it. Now, Donovan, did you have a mentor? And do you have a mentor now?
You know, I didn't when I was first starting and first getting into business. I considered Bob Ray Sanders sort of a mentor because he had a talk show. I didn't know anything about it, but he did.
Mm-hmm.
But I do consider one guy. His name is Kevin McCarthy. He had a talk show on KLIF when I first started working there, and they had some moving and shuffling to where I was working for him only about, let's see, probably about 8 months after I started working at the radio station. I started working for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, they called it a board operator. I was just running his board, making sure all the commercials are played, and no on-air aspirations as of yet. But he would talk to me, you know, during the show and after the show. And I guess he saw something kind of good or funny in me, because that was kind of unheard of when I started working there. He would have me as a board operator open my mic and talk on his show. And even afterwards, he would tell me, hey, maybe you should have said this, or you maybe should have done this. I'm setting you up for this, or do this. So he's my godfather in radio. He taught me everything that I know right now. And without him, I don't know if I would have had the shot that I have right now. Because when I tell you I was at the low end of the totem pole, I was, hello, you had to look down to try to see where I was. But he saw something in me that he thought would be good on the air. And I think he even got a little pushback for it at first when he first had me open my mic. But he believed in me. He thought he saw something good, and he continued to do it. And you work hard, and you work on your craft and all that. So he is considered the man in my eyes. He can do no wrong. I worked with him for 5 years, and he was great, and he still is. I will still call him right now to this day and talk to him about things if I have some questions or whatnot. He's done some things for me at the radio station where I am now, so he's my guy. I love him to
That's
death.
nice.
Yeah. He opened the door for me and taught me everything that I know.
Do you feel like you've had the opportunity to do that for someone else? Are you mentoring at this particular time, or is there availability for that?
There's 100% availability for it, and I do hope and feel that I have been a help to some people in some way, because I do speak to a lot of classes in college or high school or whatever, whoever wants to get into the business, because I know how tough it is, and I try to give as much good advice as I possibly can. And even when opportunities open up at our station, I'll do the same thing. Hey, I think something has opened up. You may want to come apply for it. So hopefully, I've heard from a couple of people that will say, hey, I got into this game because, I was listening to you and all this other stuff, which is really cool. And that kind of dates me again.
I didn't want to tell another aging joke.
I'm continuing to date myself with that. But I will accept pretty much any invitation to come speak to a class that is interested in talking about radio, because I could talk about it for hours. Any question you have, I can ask, because I really do love it. And I think you have to be really, really dedicated to want to get into this business, because there are a lot of ups and downs, and, just try to tell the truth about everything that's going on.
Well, can you walk us through, because it sounds like you've had have you had one employee or two? I mean, this is amazing tenure. Like, right. Have you been at one station all this whole time?
No, it's the first company that we worked for owned like 4 different stations.
Okay.
So I worked for one station, the first station where I was, 570 KLIF. It's a conservative talk radio station.
Ooh.
I worked there for 10 years. But in the process of working there in those 10 years, you start gaining more radio stations and all that. So after that 10 years, I can tell you, I did so much at that radio station. I was a board operator at first, part-time, working about 8 hours a week, just trying to get my foot in the door. And then I still was working with Kevin McCarthy, like I talked about earlier. And then I was in the production department, making sure all the commercials were right and up to date and all that. When I first started, I was working promotions to where if the station went out to some event, you have your promotions crew out there handing out swag and all that other stuff. So I was just doing whatever I could to get some hours and learn as much as I possibly could, because I thought, hey, if you know a lot, then if things are available, then they call you to come in to work. And that's all I was worried about. I wanted to work at that radio station. So did all that. And then around 99, I took the step up to produce a morning show. And then I kind of felt that producing duty wasn't for me. I just didn't feel comfortable doing that, and thought, because everyone has aspirations of being on the air. If you're in this business, you want to be on the air, and that's what I wanted to do. And you think the natural step is a board operator, producer, then you're on the air as a host. But I just didn't feel comfortable producing the show. So I asked to be moved back down to board op, just so I can kind of gather myself to say I need to find something that I can do. And then in 2003, a classic rock station asked me if I wanted to produce the morning show there. And I didn't know anything about classic rock music, and I didn't think I wanted the job, because, like, why am I going to go somewhere where I have no idea what's going on? But then I thought it was an opportunity to kind of open up a whole new world and do different things, and maybe that can open up something for something else. So I worked there for 3 years, and I'm telling you, it's the most fun I've had in radio. Just learning about 30-year-old classic rock songs that are new to me and old to everyone else was amazing. It was great. I had a really good time. But then we had a big company, Cumulus, who owns us now. They came in and bought up all of our radio stations that we had.
Okay.
That's what moved me over to the Ticket. And everyone, that was in 2006, everyone at the Bone got fired but me. I got moved to the Ticket. Yeah, I thought I was going to get fired because everyone else was, because they were going to go into another whole direction with that radio station. But they moved me over with Bob and Dan from noon to 3 on the Ticket to see if it would work. That was 2006. Obviously, it worked. I stayed with them until 2015, and then I got moved up to my own show with a guy, a vet in the business, Norm Hitzges. So I've been working with him since 2015. So my whole goal when I first started this thing, seriously, was to have a show with my name on it. I didn't know if it was going to be a music station or whatever. That was the goal. And so in 2015, I got moved up to co-host with Norm, and Norm and Donovan's show. So that was a goal.
Wow.
A show with my name on it. So it was that was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So I want to go back a bit. Okay. Soft classic rock.
It wasn't soft. It was just classic rock. It was really hard. It was I can tell you a funny story, because right before I got hired, I had to go through the interview process, and I did. And the boss called and said, "Hey, you got the job. We want you to start Monday." I was like, "Cool, thank you." But they had a huge event going on that Saturday before I started. So they was like, if you want to come to the big event, kind of get the lay of the land and see how it works, then you're more than welcome. I was like, "No, fantastic, I will do that." And they said, "And you can meet Alice Cooper." And I was like, "Okay, who is she?" And they were like, "Oh my God, you got a lot to learn, buddy." No idea who Alice Cooper was, zero clue. Got to meet him, took a picture with him, everything, and it didn't even move my needle. I had no idea. And everybody was like, "That's the coolest thing in the world, Alice Cooper." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, it's all right."
That is hilarious.
Yeah,
I love that story.
But I learned a lot. I may not be a veteran on classic rock now, but I can hold my own a little bit.
So you have a very diverse music library.
Yeah, I can hit you with some Aerosmith and Luther Vandross all in the same city.
I love the range. Now, so I guess playing sports is not necessarily required to talk about sports.
Why do you say that? I don't look like a retired basketball player over here or something. I'm a little offended by that.
No, I didn't mean that in an offensive way at all. Because you done. I mean, it wasn't really required for you to listen to classic rock either.
Okay, you got me. You're right. You got me. No, it's not a requirement, because I didn't play any sports. My high school didn't have sports. I went to high school downtown Dallas, Business and Management Center.
Okay.
So we didn't have sports. Growing up, I thought I was going to be a baseball player, but when you're 5'2",
really,
7th grade, that usually doesn't work out too well. So you have to kind of squat.
There were no scholarships rolling in.
For someone who's 5'2" at about 115, no, not a lot. Not a lot of athletic scholarships.
Were you really 5'2"? Oh my goodness.
Going into the 11th grade,
Are you serious?
That's why I know God is real, because I prayed every day to make me grow. Good Lord, I just need to be a little bit taller. And right before my junior year of high school, I grew to like 5'6", and I thought, okay, thank you. And then I grew like to 5'10", like right when I got to college. So I was like, oh my gosh, it was.
Oh my goodness, that's a very late bloom. But I've heard of stories like that before. That is hilarious.
Yeah, not good. Not a 5'2", 15-year-old is not good. It doesn't work out too much.
No, I love it. That's a great. This is what my show is all about. This is about motivation.
Right. You too may grow 8 inches.
Right.
I did. Yes.
So your prayers work out. All your prayers work out. That's awesome. That was a real question about the sports.
Oh yeah. No. You're right. It is not required. No. Now you do see a lot of guys, whether it's television announcing or on radio, that are former athletes, so maybe they can get that athletic point of view. But if I'm a minority in this radio game, which I am, I think I'm a double minority, because you do see a lot of the brothers that are ex-athletes. You don't see a lot of guys who weren't athletes at all having a radio career on a sports radio station like this. So I'm really proud of that, because it bucks a trend to where, you don't have to have been on the field to have knowledge of sports, and people take your opinion seriously. And that's what it's all about, because we can sit here and, throw opinions out all day long. But if they don't trust what you're saying, or trust that you have some idea of what you're saying, then no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to listen to someone they don't trust. So although I didn't play, I do take seriously my role in trying to figure out how to break things down and different angles to talk about games and athletes and all that stuff. And it's worked here. It's worked to where people will believe in what you say, and they may not agree with you.
Right.
But they know that you've done your work as far as trying to make some sense out of things that are going on. And that trust factor that's really important to me.
And do you feel like you were a sports enthusiast before the whole ticket thing happened?
Yes, I was. Okay. Loved watching it, loved talking about the games with my fellas, my guys. And it's funny that, like I told you earlier, I didn't think this wasn't an option when I was first in college. Sports radio wasn't a thing. And now I'm watching games that I would already watch in the first place, and I would talk about them. Now you get paid for doing something that you would do in the first place. So
right. You get paid to talk, which is so unfair for all of us who like to talk.
Well, you're using your platform for good. You're using your ability to talk to reach a mass audience, which is great. And it's the same way. It's funny. Sometimes you can't even believe that, people are hanging on you every word about a Cowboy game when they watch the same thing. And it's a big responsibility that I take seriously, but we do try to have a lot of fun with it, which helps out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you're in Texas, so I mean, it's a religion.
It is, yes.
It's crazy. So how has COVID changed your dynamic of the show, changed everything? Tell us what's happening right now.
Well, my co-host I think he is 75 or 76. So when it first hit, obviously he was concerned about his high risk as far as maybe, getting it and bad things happening. So right when it first hit, they allowed all of us to work from home. And so that changes the dynamic a lot, because we do a lot of nonverbal communications as far as when we're interviewing people, or even when we're having a really regular conversation. I can kind of tell when he's ready to wrap up, and I can jump in with my point, or if he has something else to say, he can hold up, we can, to make things sound smooth. But now that's gone. So that took a little bit of that dynamic away, to where sometimes now we're kind of stepping on each other. And because, you have the internet, there's going to be a bit of a delay, and you speak at the same time. No, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. Stuff like that. So that's
the energy is different. The energy is different from,
Is. And so that was an adjustment to try to get that whole dynamic of a new show as far as us being apart. But now I've been going back into the studio here for the last few weeks because I just feel like it just kind of makes me feel a little bit more normal to get up, get ready, drive to work, walk into the office and do the show. And while all of the other shows are not in studio, so it's like there's nobody there, so it wasn't any risk at all. So I've been going into the studio, which helps out because our producer is still there, and we can have a conversation looking at each other. We can do some of the same things that our co-host who's still at home can't see, which I think it smoothed it out a little bit. So with no sports, it was a little difficult at first, to get things to talk about. But with COVID-19, and then with everything that's going on now with with the racial divide in America, and then other fun topics that we want to kind of mix in, it's been fun to try to kind of explore different creative options to try to entertain everyone else and keep our sanity about us also, because some of these topics are heavy. And while we want to talk about them, we realize we are a sports station, and sometimes people listen to us to escape all the crazy things that are going on. But we as humans, we can't escape that either. And we have to figure out ways to talk about this while still entertaining the masses. And while you have some pushback, because some people don't want to hear it from us, the whole stick to sports mentality that some people have. But I think we've been doing a really good job of trying to find that balance of talking about what's going on while still being entertaining and still having fun, because that's what this radio station is all about. So I think cool is not the word, because I hate what's going on right now, but it's been fun to kind of reach into your mind to think about what would be entertaining. And when something sticks, it's like, okay, that was fun, and you keep doing it. So it's been entertaining.
I'm glad you brought up the racial divide, because you are the only African-American on-air voice at your station, right? So what does that feel like? And do you feel like you have a great responsibility?
I do. I've realized that probably something that I didn't realize in the past, but that I do have this platform and I have the ability to reach a huge audience with some of the things I will say. And while before, I'm not proud of this, but before I would probably let some things just kind of slide because, it's heavy and nobody wants to talk about that. I think we're at a different point now in America where some things, we're always talking about these uncomfortable conversations and some of the things that I know about that they don't, that maybe people need to be aware of. So I do understand the gravity of this situation, and I try to just try to put everything out how I feel, because I feel that I don't speak for an entire race. That's not, I would never think that, and I think it's unfair if people think that what I say is something that you feel, or you may feel differently about some things that I say. I always tell them I'm speaking from me. This is my opinion. This is my point of view. Take it for what it is, but this is coming from me. I'm not speaking from anyone else. So once you do that, it's easy, because I always just try to stay true to myself and say exactly how I feel. I'm a terrible liar. I will tell you something, I will lie to you, I will forget what I would say, and then I'd come back and say something different, and you'd say, well, you didn't say that before because I was lying. I'm a terrible liar. So I always tell the truth. I'll tell you exactly how I feel. So if you ask me another question about it, it's going to be the same thing. I think people appreciate that, and I know I would not want to do radio any different way than trying to be something that I'm not. A lot of people have this radio voice or radio personality, and that's different off the air. I'm the same whether you talk to me during my show or if you talk to me at 8 o'clock at night when I'm at home sitting on my couch. So I'm pretty proud of that, and I try to just stick to that, and I think it's worked.
So tell me about, I would guess, are you guys talking about, you and your Black voice, on the show? I mean, what is the conversation like? And do you get any backlash for being the only person, or is there anything negative that people wouldn't necessarily assume about being the only person?
Well, trust me, you're going to get some backlash and negativity about pretty much anything you do and say when you're on the air. So you got to have a little bit thick skin to let that roll off of you. I always say that you shouldn't have an ego, but you have to have a little bit of one, because people will say some nasty, dirty things to you.
Mm-hmm.
And now with social media, it gets right to you. There's no filter or anything. Matter of fact, I got a crazy one today. You just got to let it go.
Really?
Don't worry about it and just let it roll off and realize that you're doing what you're supposed to do. But, you know, I think it's sometimes, especially now, especially after the video of George Floyd came out, and a lot of people are, you know, trying to wonder what's going on. And honestly, I was trying to ask some tough questions when it first came out, because a lot of people now are saying, oh, this must end, this must stop. And I was like, this same message has been trying to be told for decades, for centuries. So why now? Why now all of a sudden is everyone concerned about how Black people are being treated in America, when it's been the same message? And, you know, my co-host, he was saying, hey, you know, it's because we have video and we saw what happened. There's been video of Rodney King. There's been videos of cops turning hoses and dogs on protesters in the 60s. The message has been there. So why now? Why all of a sudden are we concerned? So I try to ask some, you know, tough, legitimate questions of my co-host and my friends, because I really do consider all those guys my really good friends.
Okay.
So, you know, they've had me on their shows and we've had conversations about it, and it's been interesting. It's been interesting because, hey, I got to learn some things myself. You know, just because you're Black doesn't mean you know everything and you have the answers to everything.
This is true.
It's a learning experience for everyone. So I'm glad to have those guys there to have voiced their concerns and what they're worried about, and then I can do the same thing. It's all healthy conversation that's needed.
I see. Do you have any personal experiences that you can recall or recount that was kind of negative, being, you know, from a Black area of town? I know you grew up on the South Side. So do you have anything that you could possibly share that's not too personal for?
Yeah, you know what? I am kind of used to being the only brother at some events when I worked at a classic rock station and working at our radio station here. So a lot of times things didn't bother me. You just shake it off. Now, I'm always aware of my surroundings. I am. But I felt that there was one professor in college who did not like me because of the way I looked. Couldn't prove it. And he didn't overtly just say, hey, I don't like you because you're Black and I'm white, get out of here. But just different subtle things that really, really got under my skin, to where my lifeline on situations like this is my mom, because, you know, she grew up in the 50s and 60s. So I can pick up the phone and call her and, you know, kind of explode a little bit and let loose and just tell me to calm down and talk about her experiences and how to handle it and all that stuff. So a couple of times you always say, okay, don't get stopped by the cops in this area. Please don't get stopped by the cops, and then you get pulled over. So just things like that, to where I always grew up trying to find the good in everybody, because that's how my parents raised me, because I've always thought that they had every right to tell me how much I should hate white people because they grew up in that civil rights era. Every right. And they didn't. And they didn't teach me that way. And they didn't raise me that way. So they raised me, you've got to find the good in people. And if someone does something bad to you, I don't care what they look like. You have a problem with them because they did something bad to you, not because of what they look like. So I really appreciate them for that. And that's why I kind of lean on them when some things get a little heavy in my mind, to kind of talk me off the ledge a little bit and realize how we need to go about thinking and all that. So a few experiences that you thought, man, that happened because of the way I look, and that's sad. But that always gives me time to reflect a little bit on how we're one generation removed from you know, our people not being allowed to use the bathroom in the same area because they aren't worthy. You know, it's the most vile of things you do, that you, just because of the way you look, you can't do it in the same place that I do. So I always think about that and how, it affected them and how they went through it. And so I'll just kind of pick up the phone and lean on them to tell me to, how I handle it and how they handled it. So that's helped me out a lot.
That's awesome. That's good that you have parents that will share, because we find a lot of times that, a lot of us don't really feel like being in a sharing spirit. They want to forget about it and move on because that's the way they're handling it in their post-traumatic way. So kudos for that. So why don't you tell us a bit about what's the predictions for sports? Like, what's the future? Like, it seems so up in the air. Do you have any predictions? Have you analyzed it at that point?
We talked about the NBA's return today because they put out a plan, and it looks like their plan is going to happen. And it's going to be, the players are going to have to make some concessions, and the owners are going to have to make some concessions. And it feels like they're going to get back to try to crown a champion. Now, you do have some sports, baseball, that are having issues with the money, and it feels like they can't get along because of the dollar bill, and it's going to make it look bad on their sport if they can't get back. I don't know when the next time we will see a sold-out crowd at a stadium. I don't know. It's maybe a long time now. College football, certain conference said they're going to have football, they're going to have fans. That's just the way it's going to be. But I think they're going to change their minds on that if COVID-19 is still around and there's no vaccine and people can get sick from that. So I think the sports will play. They'll play without fans, and it'll be weird at first, and then you'll get used to it. And then slowly maybe have some fans come in and trickle in and attend games. But it may be 2 years before you see a full stadium in the United States of fans, I think.
Okay, that's your prediction.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, well, it's recorded, so.
Right, there's no thinking to it, yes.
We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. No,
right.
And we appreciate everything that you shared today. Just before we go, why don't you, everyone kind of sees you at this element, this is what happens when you get to the, peak of your career. Everyone just sees that, people that are coming behind us, and they don't get to see any type of pitfalls or pauses or plateaus. Can you share any space? Because it all sounded all really great, You kind of ticked your way up. So was there any space in there that you felt a little, not so successful, like, you're working this hard, but it's not, you're not, feeling like you're getting your due?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It sounds all peaches and cream, but there are some thorns and sticky bugs that you step on all the way trying to climb up. Yeah. It's especially starting out in a major market where, on air, you have to have some sort of persona or, it was a few times where I thought I was going to have to get another job and leave the radio game because I didn't think it was going to happen. And one was I was going to go teach. I was going to go be a teacher. Took all the tests to go into the accelerated, the AC, I think that was called, AC program. Did everything I needed to do. Was going to walk out, sign the contract, and go teach and leave radio behind. And I told my boss what I was about to do. And he called me in. And he said, hey, if I pay you this, will you stay? And I was like, well, for you, I will. And he did. So that was one. Another one, I was early on in the game, and I thought I was going to go sell insurance because those guys made a lot of money. And I wasn't making any. And I went and interviewed for the job, and the guy told me I would hire you, but you talk about radio like that's what you want to do. So I'm not going to take you away from that. So I'm not going to hire you.
Oh, wow.
He didn't hire me. So
what a gift.
No, I'm thankful for that. But it was a long, difficult road to try to get to where I am right now. Now, I enjoyed the view, and there are times where you run out of gas and you have to go change the tire and the check engine light comes on and all that stuff a whole bunch of times. But it's something that I just wanted to do, and I felt I would be really, really good at it. And I think a lot of people worry about the money, which is legit. I wasn't making any for a long time. But it was a passion of mine that I knew that something would happen if I just stuck with it and that's what I did. So it's a long winding road to
Yeah.
get to where I am right now. But it made it all the better because there are a lot of people who thought you couldn't get to where you are right now. A lot of people. So just that motivation to try to prove them wrong and prove to yourself that you can get to that point has been pretty dang satisfying. I know a lot of
I'm
people
sure.
wouldn't want to have the revenge factor or whatever, but people doubt you and you just want to say, okay, your doubts aren't warranted and I know I can do this. So that motivated me to stick around and try to get to where I wanted to be. So it's if you have about 6 or 7 hours one day, maybe I can tell you all about all those pitfalls and landmines and all that I ran through.
No, those were great. Those were great. And haters are necessary. I mean, they are there to help us and push us forward. So that's good we're able to overcome that. You shared your journey has been great. And I think it's really good to hear. I think it's going to be really motivational to really view from someone who is looking in your arena. And I also am very appreciative of the chatter about your workplace and being a person of color at your workplace. I really appreciate that. I know that is, can be sensitive. So appreciate you sharing.
Oh, anytime. My pleasure.
Yeah. Your job is the epitome of cool. That's why I have to have you on Cool Careers. That's what it's all about. So thank you so much, Donovan, for being here and taking out time for me and your audience and my audience. So and your audience too, because we're going to share this. So
there you go. I really appreciate it. Thank you for what you're doing. This is awesome and much needed, so everyone can get that motivation that, hey, if you got something that you want to do, hey, there are people that have done what you wanted to do and they had a road that you can follow and make something of yourself. So that's good of you doing this.
Thank you. We'll see what happens. Right. Thanks so much. Okay. Have a good one. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.